Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel and welcome to my comprehensive review of the November window of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Now there is so much to talk about that I'm actually going to split this into 3 videos. The first video I'm going to talk about Africa and Asia, because those are the places where the fewest matches were taking place. In the second video, I'm going to talk all about CONCACAF, North America, and also take a look at the Interconfederation playoffs, the Intercontinental playoffs. And in the last video, I'm going to go to Europe, to UEFA, and of course the UEFA playoffs there as well. So for this video, I'm effectively only talking about 4 matches. We have Nigeria versus Gabon, Cameroon versus DR Congo, Nigeria versus DR Congo, and of course the UAE versus Iraq. Or rather Iraq versus UAE, because it's an Iraqi national home game rather. So with that said, let's get into the first one. We had I made some rather poor predictions, let's just say. I predicted in my last video that Gabon would win against Nigeria, and then Cameroon would win against DR Congo, and yeah, none of those really happened. But so I'm not great at predicting African football, but who am I to predict African football anyway? But yeah, so let's just take a look at this first match, because this is the match that I did kind of watch. This was Nigeria versus Gabon, of course. At full time, 90 minutes, it was there was 2 goals scored, one from Nigeria, one from Gabon. The goal from Lamina was actually kind of lucky, and from the angle that he shot at, the only reason it went into the goal was because it deflected off of another player. I can't remember if it was a Nigerian or Gabonese player, but it only went in because it deflected off of that player, and from that angle, I think it would have been hit off or blocked off had it not been deflected. So it was already kind of a lucky goal from Gabon to begin with, but it was 1-1 at full time, so they played until 120 minutes, and you can see right here Victor Osimhen just absolutely popping off. 102 minutes and another goal just 8 minutes later. And you know what, I'll be honest and admit that on the night, Nigeria were the more dominant side. They were a lot more aggressive with the attack, and I was also watching the reaction from another football YouTuber during the match, and he said basically that Aubameyang was looking kind of uninterested in the whole game, and honestly I think that can broadly be true of the entire Gabonese team in general during that day or afternoon or night or something like that. It was just not a very inspiring team from Gabon, and which sucks because they're a country that has never gone to the World Cup, but they are bordered by countries that have pretty much all gone to the World Cup. So yeah, unfortunately Gabon's World Cup hopes and dreams end here for Nigeria, who barely even scraped into the playoffs to begin with, to continue through to the African playoff final. Now, the other game I did not actually watch. This was Cameroon versus DR Congo. The only goal was scored by DR Congo, so I don't really have much to say about that. So it was a 1-0, and it was, of course, Chancel Mbemba, absolutely legendary player for the Congolese team. And there's not really much to talk about there because, well, I didn't watch the match. It was happening, I think, at the same time as the Nigeria match, or maybe I don't know, it was I think 2 hours after it, after the Nigerian game. But this sets up the final, which was Nigeria versus DR Congo. Now, this is very interesting because, I'll be honest, had Victor Osimhen not been subbed off, I'm not sure this would have been the result, because it's not shown here. I think you can find it somewhere for sure, but Victor Osimhen was actually subbed off from I think in the 78th minute or something like that, and there was a very early goal from Nigeria, as you can see here, the 3rd minute. there is, of course, another match that we'll be talking about with the 3rd minute goal. Actually, 2 matches technically, but we'll get there. That's the European video, if you hadn't already guessed. But yeah, that was a very early goal for Nigeria, and then goal not too long after in the grand scheme of things for the DR Congo. And so they played all the way until the 120th minute. And I'll be honest, after I didn't watch the whole thing, as you might have guessed, but I watched, I think, the last 40 minutes or so, maybe. And I'll be honest, I looked, at the general kind of trend of the game, and the Congolese team were a lot more aggressive. And by the time we got to the penalty shootout, this was actually going to be the first penalty shootout that I had watched in the entire year. And it was very exciting, actually, weirdly exciting almost, because people were throwing like plastic bottles onto the pitch until we got to the final needed penalty kick anyway, and that was taken by none other than Chancel Mbemba. And actually on his kick as well, someone literally threw a plastic bottle right in front of his feet, or like 2 steps in front of him, but he just kind of ignored it, and he scored the penalty that would send DR Congo to the Intercontinental Playoff, and spoiler alert, probably to the World Cup. But that's just my opinion. So that is Africa. After a frankly really brutal set of qualifiers, we get the DR Congo defeating Nigeria and going to the Intercontinental Playoff. Now, I do find it interesting. One last thing before I move on to Asia. I do find it interesting that even though Osimhen was subbed off, he was still trying to be like his own coach of his own team, like just completely ignoring the actual Nigerian coach, and he was trying to coach people on the team to do stuff. And they just weren't the same without Osimhen. But I have also seen, I think it was in the Gabon game, actually, it was literally a 1v0. I think it was in the first 90 minutes, but it was a 1v0. He's on the goal, he's got it. There's literally no one else who's able to, from the Gabonese team, who's able to keep up with him, and he shoots it wide. So that was a choke, but he did get a little bit better in the extra time, of course, as I've already discussed. So yeah, that is going to be it for Africa, and we get DR Congo out of it into the Intercontinental Playoffs, which I'll talk about in the next video. The other country to go to the Intercontinental Playoffs are, of course, Iraq. Now, this was a really close match. Some people have described it as like the closest match, the closest thing to 50-50 between 2 teams that they've ever seen. I'm not really sure about that. I'll be honest, I think for at least the latter part, the UAE were definitely a lot more dominant, but in the end, Iraq defended well, and they only let 1 goal through on their side. And you can see the entire timeline right here. You can see a bunch of substitutions. Pretty early goal. Well, not really that early, but a goal from the UAE, from Kyle Lucas. I'm going to talk about this later, but very much, one of those classic Emirati family names, of course, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But he sends a goal into the Iraqi goal, and then but Iraq equalizes in the 66th minute. This was 14 minutes later from Mohammed Ali, not to be confused with Muhammad Ali, that's an N in the middle, with an assist from El Amari. Remember that name. And then we had a bunch more substitutions from both sides, and there was a goal, I think. I honestly can't remember this, but there was a goal that could have been for Iraq, but they ruled it with VAR that it was offside or something like that. And then in literally the 114th minute, they reviewed VAR and gave a penalty to Iraq. Now, yeah, and then the guy who scored the first goal got a yellow card, and Al Amari steps up to take the penalty, and he does it in the 90 plus 17th minute, aka the 107th minute. Now, you might be wondering why the hell is the extra time or whatever it's called, I can't remember the exact name for it. Why is this time so long? And you might think, is it just this long? Is it always this long for games with involving the UAE? Because there was another game that was like plus 15 minutes. But essentially, I think it's just that they had a lot of long VAR reviews, and also people getting subbed off and getting injured and stuff like that. So yeah, we had a penalty in basically the last minute, and it was just an absolute explosion of the crowd. Probably not the right term to use, but this was in Basra. This was in Iraq. It was an Iraqi home game. And so the crowd just absolutely exploded when the penalty was awarded to Iraq. And, Al Amari, he scores it, and he sends Iraq to the Intercontinental playoffs. And I'll talk about their fate there when we get to that video. But speaking of videos, that is about it for this one. It's relatively short for my standards, but I wanted to keep it clean. I wanted to keep the three components clean so I can talk about each one one at a time. But this is the first video of the three that I'll be doing. This is from Africa and from Asia. We've got Iraq and the DR Congo going to the Intercontinental Playoff. And in the next video, I'm going to be talking about CONCACAF, which will be giving us the other last two countries that are also going to this playoff. And if you want to find out who those are, and if you haven't looked at the results yet somehow, then keep watching, stay tuned, like this video if you enjoyed my commentary, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my next video on the World Cup qualifiers, and I'll see you next time.